All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'll join me in a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Neighbors? Here. Young?
Here.
Dilling? Beamsterboer?
Here.
Adamski?
Here.
Doyle?
Here.
Adrianson?
Here. And Bob Dilling will be here. He's just a couple minutes, running a few minutes late. So first item, there's no public comment, you said? No. So first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It consists of the April 2nd, 2024 Village Board Meeting minutes, the April 2nd, 2024 Executive Session Meeting minutes, not for release, approval of April 16th, 2024 bills list.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Neighbors? Yes. Young?
Yes.
Beamsterboer?
Yes.
Adamski?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item under new business is a resolution authorizing the Village of Manhattan, Illinois, to enter into an intergovernmental jurisdictional boundary line agreement with the Village of Frankfurt. So previously, the boundary agreement between Manhattan and Frankfurt has expired. This item is a renewal of a boundary agreement between our two communities. This will extend another 20 years to 2044. So I think that these agreements are pretty important for long-term planning and working with our local and neighboring municipalities. So it took a little bit longer than we anticipated because some of the lines were a little out of whack. So Spasia Taylor's office worked with Mark and Nick to straighten that out, and Frankfurt to come to the agreement. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the Village of Manhattan, Illinois, to enter into an intergovernmental jurisdictional boundary line agreement with the Village of Frankfurt, Illinois.
Second.
Roll call. Discussion?
Question for the attorney.
Sure.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. Paragraph 9 of the agreement. I was under the impression when we did Elwoods that we were changing this paragraph in all agreements. We weren't
Oh, for
asked
the right to disagree?
the right to disagree. We're in this position. I can read it for the residents if you want, but is it nothing changed? Then if Frankfurt on the other side of our boundary decides to put a bunch of warehouses over there or something that we don't want, and we can't fight it just like we can't fight Joliet right now with North Point. And I thought we were changing those paragraphs in our boundary agreements, and I'd like to know why it wasn't changed.
Yeah, I don't recall having any discussions previously about changing those paragraphs, or were modifications made to this agreement to be in keeping with the one that I believe was done in Elwood with respect to the 1.5 mile radius and having it as a right for purposes of, I'll put it under the umbrella of business considerations, but I didn't recall any indication about modification to paragraph 9A or B specifically.
So specifically in the Elwood agreement, if I remember right, it was changed so we can
Object to it.
object to it. And in this one, we're not. I don't know that it's right to do one side of our border and not the other, the same. I personally think it should be changed to the Elwood language, if it can. It protects the village in the future. We don't know
Does this have some?
what future boards are gonna do.
It has the same language where if we were to publicly object, we could be in violation. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Because I know Frankfurt's already approved this and we've already done the 30-day, but I know we're putting you on the spot, so.
Well, I mean, we can do one of two things. Yeah, I would have to get back to the attorney for Frankfurt. First, I'd want to go back and compare this paragraph to Elwood's. I'll take on face value that you're saying there's some language in here that is different from what's contained in Elwood.
There was some changes that we made.
All right, so we would have to go, I'm sorry?
No, originally we were trying to do Elwood and Frankfurt at the same time, and then there was a delay with Frankfurt because of the lines, so I don't know if they were next to each other the whole time
Okay.
being utilized.
So what we can do is you simply table it at this point in time, and I can go back to Frankfurt's attorney and see if there's approval. I'm not sure if that will trigger a republication requirement. There is a timeframe you have to get these approved within after you do the publication of notice. So secondary issue we'd have to take a look at.
Because you can't approve it subject to anything, you have to just make sure.
Well,
that
if we
it's-
would approve it subject to, I mean, the problem, the
Yeah,
only
you-
problem I
because if
foresee
you do
with
change
that
it,
is,
yeah.
we've got to go
Right.
back to Frankfurt to make a determination as to whether or not, you know, there's any issue from that standpoint,
Okay.
so.
From my point of view is, it has been expired. There is no
Yeah.
major fight between us and Frankfurt. There's no delay. That a delay to get the language right, that's gonna be 20 years.
You might regret it in the future.
We might regret if we don't do this in year 12 or year 13 if or when something happens. So I would prefer I would motion, I'm sorry, there's already a motion on the floor. I would like to change it to table it, but someone would have to withdraw their motion at that point.
Yeah, you do need a motion to withdraw.
Well, I can motion to withdraw.
There you go.
All right, so need a motion to table?
I will motion to table. Do we have to have a vote on the motion to withdraw?
Well, there was never a second, was there? Or was there a second?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no vote on that. You withdrew. Just, we'll take a quick vote on the motion to withdraw.
So motion to
So
withdraw.
amend your motion to withdraw.
Amend my motion to withdraw.
So roll call?
Young,
I'm sorry, are we voting on to
To
withdraw?
withdraw.
Yep.
Then yes.
Dilling,
Yes.
Beamsterboer,
Yes.
Adamski,
Yes.
Doyle,
Yes.
Neighbors. Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Now I would motion to table until further language is worked out between the attorneys. In concerning paragraph 9 only, that's my only issue with the boundary agreement, to make that
Yeah.
clear.
I thought it was the same as Elwood's too.
Yeah,
so-
but it is not, so.
Yeah.
I will
that's
second
my
that.
motion.
All right, roll call?
Dilling,
Yes.
Beamsterboer,
Yes.
Adamski,
Yes.
Doyle,
Yes.
Neighbors. Yes. Young,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So next item on the agenda is a resolution approving professional services agreement between the Village of Manhattan and Housel Levain Associates LLC to complete the Manhattan Comprehensive Plan update. The village adopted a comprehensive plan back in 2008. Usually these are about every 10 years you want to revisit them. So we released the request for qualifications. Housel and Levain Associates responded and is a well-qualified and complete. So the staff has met with the firm and negotiated out the contract not to exceed $138,275. The JADA grant will fund 75,000 of this. So our max cost is $63,275. So the work will begin immediately with projected first formal presentation to the board June 4th. So is there any other discussion or questions on this?
Mike, I was wondering, Mr. Mayor, we haven't done it in a long time, maybe you can refresh my memory, Dave. I mean, a study on that traffic flow. On
Yeah,
that. We haven't done that in a long time, too. I think that'd be part of, a good thing for this.
yeah, I think we were talking about possibly doing a separate study, just because I don't think that that's in the realm of what this particular firm is going to take on as far as a scope. But I think a committee of the whole meeting we were planning on doing in May to discuss what we want as far as an objective and what we want to accomplish, whether we want to gather all the studies that are out there and try to come up with an analysis of what we see for Manhattan, or a true traffic study just for Manhattan. So I think that's going to be a discussion in May as a committee of the whole. But I would agree.
I think we would ask them when they come in June, when they come before the board, to see what we want to do with the study and what we want to do with our areas and the property, that we can put that in there, because I agree. I think you can't plan unless you get all these traffic studies pinpointed to the exact impact on the Village of Manhattan. It's other people's traffic studies that are done, but they're done and from their point of view, and we could extrapolate the data out of that with our own company. We don't have to do a whole new study. As they're doing the plan, they can take that into
Have you-
consideration, because you can't plan unless you know what other people are doing to you.
And I think that goes both ways. I see your point. I feel like could be both ways. What do you want in this particular region affects the study of what traffic's going to be caused by what you agree to put in that area. So it's kind of both ways. I know Robinson, I think it was 2017 was the last updated traffic study that Robinson did. I don't know if you looked at that, if that's anything relevant to what you guys are thinking, or more in depth, or that's where I feel like the comp plan to get started, and then simultaneously try to do the traffic. But, I mean, if the firm is willing to do it, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I think Tommy, go ahead, I'll just say, Tommy, I think, I don't know, can't remember, were you here last meeting? We did have some discussions about it, just so you're aware, about doing a traffic study and making sure that we had a budget. It was part of the budget, that we wanted to make sure that in our budget line items, that we're able to pay for one as we move forward, but, so.
To add to that, Trustee Adamski has been and others have been a champion of doing something on transportation. And we've had some offline conversations and emails back and forth. I had sent him something, the mayor, but I was going to send it to the whole board. I was just it was a draft there are a number of studies ongoing, to Trustee Beamsterboer's point. There are other studies, and there have been in the past. There's some that are going on right now. Just a quick rundown. Will County's doing their 2050 study. There's a county study on Gauger Road right by the high school about a grade separation. County's also doing a study on Laraway Road between 52 heading eastward and actually going all the way to Harlem. The county's doing another study on Peatone-Wilmington Road. So a lot of those are outside the village borders proper, and that's just on the roads. But there have been previous studies on freight movement throughout the region, truck routing, things like that. So I can distribute that list, and there are a number of websites that if any of you are interested right now looking at. I have talked to a number of firms in the past year about the Route 52 bypass, because that's something that's been talked about here for years. I just talked to the other day a former secretary of IDOT who's a consultant now and who has done a lot of those work on behalf of or kind of managed the contractors at the county. She was going to put some ideas down just as suggestions and a proposal. Doesn't mean we have to go with her, but I will caution you, the comp plan people are experts on comp plans. They're not experts on transportation studies, so I do think there's a transportation component to it, but I think if we really want to do a robust or not so robust study, we should get somebody who's a transportation planning expert. But the mayor, as the mayor said, we've talked about doing a committee of the whole where we can bring some of those ideas forward and really focus in on what it is we want to accomplish. Because I think you could do studies, we could do corridor studies, we could do truck movement studies, but we really need to focus on what we want to do and how much we want to spend. Because you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a study, or we could do just traffic counts. But I don't think traffic counts gets the job done.
Are we allowed to determine what happens with Route 52 or Manhattan-Money Road if it's not
No,
under our control, or Cedar?
No, I mean, that's where there's been regional studies where Manhattan has participated on some levels in the past, but I mean, we only control the roads we have jurisdiction over, and we found that out on Eastern Avenue. I mean, north of Baker Road wasn't our jurisdiction, so we couldn't set the speed limit, we can only control the roads we have jurisdiction on. But having firm data on traffic counts, safety, there's a number of factors you can measure and put into a study and use that as advocacy. But I can tell you, and this is why I talked to this former secretary of IDOT, you're not going to be competitive for grants if you don't have data relative to your village. And the comp plan, I mean, it's like what you put on the land drives the numbers of cars. I mean, we could put a 5-lane road on, say, Baker, but it's like, that's not going to drive more development there because some of that's already forest preserve. It's what's going to go on the land is going to drive the truck traffic. I mean, if you put a data warehouse or a data farm, that's not going to create more trucks. If you put an Amazon facility, you're going to have a lot more trucks. So I think they do go together, but I think the comp plan is kind of maybe more a visionary document of what we want to do as far as like, and we've talked to a number of you privately about this, like, what do we want to do along Eastern Avenue? What do we envision along Cedar? What do we envision to the property west of town? That's going to drive what the infrastructure needs are. And I'm not an expert, but I've been involved in a lot of those studies at the county, and I know kind of how the process works, but we need to decide what it is specifically we want to do. And then staff can put together an RFQ and we can find, do a procurement to get a firm. But I don't think it's the same people that are doing the comp plan. The comp plan people are more holistic, and I defer to Mark on that, but it's like they're more on comprehensive planning, not just transportation planning. There are people who specifically do all the minutiae related to transportation, and which will, again, prepare us to advocate at the state level, at the federal level, at the regional level for what we need to do to protect our community and do right by our citizens, but also still support economic development, so.
Well, I think it would behoove us to have some type of traffic study here in town. With everything that's going on with Laraway Road, I-80, that's a $17 billion project, the widening, all over the place is going to affect us in one way or another. The comp plan, that's great. They can tell us what we would like, or we can, whatever we got to do with the comp plan. But knowing what we know now, we're already screaming about trucks and cars, and where are we at today? And how's it going to finish up in 2 years when they finish up 80 and Laraway and things like that? I wasn't here, unfortunately, I wasn't here yesterday to meet with you about the comp plan, but I'm all for some type of traffic study. And it's great that Will County's doing one, but how much of that do they share with us? Or is that something that we can look into?
We're going to be
I
involved
mean,
with it.
we need to be involved, Bob, a lot more, because they have been, there's been opportunities for all the communities in Will County to be involved. And we need to be involved and actively involved, because we have every opportunity, right now, there was a public comment period earlier, I think this year, end of last year, for Will County, but there's going to be other opportunities. But I think having something localized is going to empower us to speak to those people. But and unfortunately, I wish I-80 was only 2 more years. I heard it's going to be like 5 more years probably before it's all done. So we got a ways of a lot of construction all throughout this area. So, and same thing with Peatone Wilmington is going to be a long-term project. But we need to do. I think everybody agree we need to do something, because it's not going to get better if we don't do something. So.
I'd just like to add, it's not really the specific, we'll do a committee of the whole, and we're working on what we want to accomplish with a traffic study. But my background before, I was in the military, got out of the military, and I worked for 2 trucking companies as a supervisor. So I have a good understanding from a lot of levels of transportation. One thing that I'm familiar with, and I think most of you probably can attest to, is that I'm seeing a lot of, I'll say a term here that you may or may not be familiar with, and it's called bobtailing.
With no trailer?
No trailer, no container, and so I'm seeing a lot more bobtailing, and what that means is these drivers a lot of them are local, and they'll drive in their cab only. They might go to, I'm just making this up, but going to Peatone or Mantino, wherever the warehouse is at, they'll pick up a load, bring it to another warehouse, it's all part of this whole transportation, but then they get to the next warehouse, they have no load. So then they'll go back somewhere else, empty, as a cab only, and go somewhere else and go pick up a container somewhere and shift around. So I'm seeing and I'm visioning that that's going to be another issue for us here in Manhattan, that you're going to have a lot of bobtailing going on, passing through, as they want to pick up containers, but they just don't have them, so they'll go empty and go pick one up somewhere. But I do believe that it's a much bigger discussion for a committee of the whole or whatever it is, and we are working like Nick said. But I just want to add that on to the mix that we're dealing with here. And I think most people know where I kind of stand on some of this stuff, but we certainly, there's enough studies out there that we can take a look at as part of that, but we'll handle that or deal with that at the committee of the whole or moving forward. Just wanted to let that bobtail thing.
But is the
gel.
studies studying us, or is it by Laraway, or where's all
Well,
that?
those are like Nick said, those are all Will County studies.
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
saying.
quite frankly, another $500 million, I don't know, I shouldn't say $500 million, but there's a brand new study coming out
Because
that they
it's all their
approved.
roads. So
Oh,
they're studying like their roads, the region, the state.
Yeah, they just added another study, it's more east of us, but,
We just have to participate in those studies so we can have our voices heard.
Absolutely.
yeah.
I just want to reiterate my point, and then I'll be quiet. I'm okay with the comp plan, but I personally feel you can't do a thorough comp plan and not take into effect what the surrounding area towns are doing to you. Let's just take Cherry Hill, for instance. If we decide as a village, we're only worried about Cherry Hill, but the town to the next of us is gonna dump 5,000 trucks an hour onto it, or in that area, we need to be aware of that when we do our comp plan, so we decide what we're gonna build there, what type of housing, what type of, whatever we're gonna put. It changes if there's nothing
Yeah,
going on.
and I believe they
We
look
need to
at that
know
because there's a lot of regional plans already and freight mobility studies, so I believe
what I'm
that they
talking
do
about.
look into that and take that into consideration already, because those are studies that have already been done.
With the comp plan.
Yeah, the comp plan will look into that, those, right, Mark, those individuals will look at, you know, what is out there, what trucks are, you know, what transportation issues are out there now and what's gonna be improved in the
Well,
future.
yeah, they're gonna be looking at the surrounding, communities' land uses and
Yeah.
what they're proposing. I don't know if they're gonna be doing a transportation plan with all of those communities, but they're gonna look at their land use and what they've been proposing.
Yeah, they'll interpolate, I mean, as far as I understand, they'll interpolate and have some, just depends how deep we wanna go with ours. And
Right.
it sounds to me, which I think is where we're headed, we want a separate one that specifically deals with Manhattan.
Mark, this question's for you. How complicated is it to amend a comp plan if we do a
Well,
truck traffic study?
We
or
can
just a
amend it,
traffic study?
it's just gonna change the cost, and they're gonna have to
Well,
find an
say
additional.
that the traffic study happens a year from now and we're already done with our comp plan. What kind of cost is included to redo that portion if it affects a certain corridor of the village? Is it expensive?
Would it be
Is it
just a
super easy?
rider on the comp plan, or would it be?
If you wanna include it in the existing one or add it later, are you asking?
If we have to add it later, because obviously a traffic study would probably take quite a while.
Now, that's not totally true, just to.
I mean, how long would it take? I mean, it's not gonna happen in 6 months, maybe?
Oh, I think
don't know.
it'd be done before
Terry,
that.
how long do you think it would take to do
Yeah.
one?
I mean, it depends on the level of detail.
Right.
I mean, if you're taking accounts or if you're taking regional information, I mean, I think with the comp plan, and Nick was mentioning this, things that we'll need to understand, like Baker Road, when we did the transportation plan back in '06 and then revised it, it was supposed to be a 5-lane road with a 120-foot right-of-way because of all the residential development that was gonna happen on the north and the south side of Baker. That's not gonna happen now. So that part of the transportation plan would need to be updated based on the comp plan and what the developments are going to bring in. So if that makes sense. So the things from an engineering standpoint would be, are we a 66-foot right-of-way? Are we 120-foot based on the use and how much traffic we're anticipating from all of those uses? I mean, the level of detail is gonna determine
The cost.
and the amount of time that it will take. So I think there's a local part of it that we want to take into account, and then there's also the regional part of it. They're gonna be hand in hand though.
So I just want to make sure that if the plan is to do a traffic study, that it's not going to end up costing us more money to do it later than it is to do it now.
I don't know if I can answer that, because it depends on the level of detail, how much you're gonna look at. I don't know how much it's gonna cost extra, it just depends on what we want, and what we wanna see. How far out are we gonna look? Are we gonna look at just within a mile and a half? We're gonna look out all the way into Joliet, New Lenox? It just depends on how much detail that we're looking to do. Correct, Carrie?
Yeah, I think your comp plan is definitely gonna have a transportation component to it, but I think what you guys are talking about is more of a regional, what Manhattan-focused, traffic study. I think there's a traffic plan that goes into the comp plan, and I think there's a traffic study that is based on your overall development and then what's happening in the communities around you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I just want to clarify, because maybe, Justin, you're asking if we do a comp plan and get it done, and then we do a transportation study separate from that, are you asking, do we need to update the comp plan to reflect any findings in the transportation study? And what did that cost, is what you're asking?
Yeah, I don't want to be wasting money to
I
do something
believe that
twice.
The guideline would be the comp plan, and then you would try to work through that, what the vision is for the comp plan, and then offset with the traffic study. And then regionally, you'd still work on
I mean,
regional.
I think if you're having a discussion, there's probably multiple ways you can do it. Frankly, some people would say you should do a strategic plan before you do a comp plan, but doing a comp plan first is going to focus all of our elected folks here and getting public input on what they see as the vision for the future. So if the vision is, we don't want to build any industrial, any light industrial, anything, we just want housing, well, then that's a different vision than if we say, we want to put some kind of commercial and retail and light industrial on Eastern, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but just Cedar or Baker or wherever. Because that, like what Carrie's saying, is it changes what you need. So I think, to me, having a comp plan vision then helps drive a transportation vision to support that comp plan vision. It's like if you're gonna build a house, how big a driveway do you need? Or, you don't build the roads first and then, if we knew we were gonna do like, if other communities had said, we're gonna do all this industrial, we need to build the roads, that's what they should have done. But they kind of did buildings first and not even considered what impact that was having. They didn't know they were gonna build all these industrial buildings till, later, but they have to go together, I agree. But that's been the challenge, is we don't build the infrastructure once we know what the vision is.
But our vision should be driven also by what the outside forces are putting upon us.
And that's the regional
But you
part of
can't
it.
But the regional part of it, whether it's through transportation or through actually the buildings that they're doing. You can sit here and say, I want to go all the way to the Frankfurt, since we did the Frankfurt border group, to that edge and put residential estate housing. But Frankfurt may decide they want warehouses. And I'm not saying this is happening, just so that people know. At that point, we may want to change what we build there. We may want, in our side of it, want townhomes to buffer, or duplexes or something to buffer back in. We have to take into effect from our comp plan,
That's where we use
our
the-
borders, our outside borders of what the outside forces are putting on
Yeah,
us.
that's the point of
And
the
by
comp plan.
taking,
We are doing that.
and by taking all the traffic studies that are done, and the studies, and just getting the information and saying, okay, Joliet's plan, and this is this and this, if it goes through, this is where it's gonna be. We have to plan for that it's gonna be that way. We can also plan that it's not gonna be that way, if, to your point, you do it kind of simultaneously with the comp plan, but you have to be ready.
Yeah.
You can't just sit here and wait.
No, that's the
You
problem right
can't
now.
just say, I don't want to do this traffic study, because we're not asking for a study, we're asking for the information to be compiled,
Yeah.
so we can make the
That's-
right decision
But that's what the
of
comp plan's
where we
gonna
put what we
do.
put.
Yeah, the comp plan's gonna do that. That's what we're gonna work on, all the, surrounding areas. That's why we wanna extend our boundary agreements, so that we know
Mm-hmm.
for 20 years that this is pretty much what we envisioned could happen out here.
And yes, the comp plan is gonna do that,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, but the comp plan has to have some information from the outside
Yeah.
forces, whether it's the traffic that they plan on dumping on you,
Oh,
or
absolutely,
the
that's
buildings
wrong.
that they plan on
Yeah.
dumping on you. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. We
No,
need
I
to
agree.
know and compile all that information into our comp plan, so we, as a board, can make the right decision for the future. We're talking 20 years on this.
Yeah.
Or, we need to have that information.
That's-
We can't
yeah.
just say, well, we'll go do this traffic later. We can do it simultaneously, or we can do the part that we need at the same time. Same thing, I'm sorry, I'm babbled, simultaneously at the same time.
I just want to make sure we're not spending money twice when we can do it once. That's really my concern, and to your point, like, why can't we do it at the same time?
comp plan, if you want to answer, the firm doesn't do traffic studies separately.
Well, we can have two separate firms.
Well,
I
I
think
mean-
working on
Unless we do it,
two
unless
different
we
things.
approve the comp plan tonight and then concurrently, at a later time, approve a traffic study.
Well, we budgeted money for that.
Well, I thought that's what we
component, so
all
why aren't-
discussed already.
We should
I
probably
don't
start
think
that now.
anybody's, I
Yeah.
just want to be clear, I don't think anybody here's, I haven't heard anybody say we shouldn't do a transportation
Yeah.
study.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
just, but we are trying to get a scope of work. We had a scope of work for the comp plan. We have not
We'll get a
narrowed
scope when
in
we do
on
the
a
committee of the whole.
and that's why the mayor suggested, and we've talked about having a committee of the whole in May, and possibly bringing in some people who are
At a
more
different
the
date,
experts.
with more than an hour to
Yeah.
spend on this, so it's not gonna be rushed through just to go to a board meeting. We were suggesting didn't send out an email yet to the board, but request maybe like on a Thursday, we have a meeting here and just, there's no time limit, we could talk about it for a few hours, get the outline of what we want accomplished, and narrow that down, and then they can go out and seek out a firm that is qualified to provide us what we need. So I don't.
Yeah, no,
think
thank you,
disagree.
Mayor.
I think
Yeah,
I think everyone's
right.
on the same page. I
Yeah.
just think instead of rushing, I mean, I know we're doing a comp plan, but that's next, is pretty much simultaneously if it works, yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, my understanding of what we've been talking about is that, yeah, I mean, after this is complete, we are going to be making those next steps towards getting this study started, based on what we all want and need.
Yeah,
Do we think if we were to do that and get it done soon, that we could possibly implement some of that before this is finalized? Some of the traffic studies, like, so let's say we
I think they're
we
gonna
get some
review
numbers
that.
back, or we get some feedback that says, wow, like, we really shouldn't do residential there, because Juliet's planning on doing this, I was planning on doing this, maybe it should be multifamily.
I think
We were
they're
thinking
gonna know that now.
commercial. I'm sorry?
I believe that they're gonna know that right when they start with the comp plan, because they're gonna look at
Well,
our neighboring
they're gonna be-
zoning.
I would just like to
areas.
know for certain, not like we think or we hope, like, just,
I know
and not
the last
to be
comp plan, we
rude,
met
but,
with all of the surrounding communities, we met with staff, we talked about what they're proposing, we looked at the actual comp plans that they have on file to determine the land uses, to determine, you know, are we going up against industrial, are we going up against residential? We didn't look at specific traffic numbers, but we did go there and interview them to see what proposals are proposing to do. So, I mean, we could do that, it's just, you know, we're not gonna have initially the traffic numbers.
I'm not necessarily worried about the traffic numbers, it's more about future expansion. For example, like, if we were to make Cherry Hill a bypass, we probably don't want to put homes right on that road, right? Maybe we do multifamily homes or commercial. That is in the comp plan. So what other roads are going to be like that? Eastern,
Eastern.
Cedar,
The Cedars of Will
you
County
know,
roads.
well, whatever, but I
Yeah.
mean, still, we border up to it.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want to put maybe residential on it if we know they're going to turn into a 6-lane highway.
Mhm. That's all
We might
about
want
the
to do
zoning,
commercial.
right?
So that would be identified in the comp plan, but it would be important to know what Will County's plan on doing with that road. And if that's included in
Well,
this
I believe
scope,
they-
we're good. If not, we should probably make sure it's included.
Yeah, they have a
and do it.
2050 plan they're working on now, so we'll have the.
Well, they're working on it now, but
So
then we
go
have to
off the
amend ours
2040.
because theirs is different
Well,
than
we go off the
ours.
2040 plan then right now.
That's fine. I
mean,
just want to make
that's-
sure that
that's
is
20,
included.
You know, that's 16
The
years.
52 bypass is on the freight study, I think it's on maybe on the 2040 plan. It's on there because somebody's.
So this firm will take that information then and implement
I
that
mean,
into our...
it's a projection. There's been no engineering, no right-of-way acquisition, none of that has happened, because part of my understanding of comp plans is you take a reassessment of what does the elected body want, what does the community want, and that's what you're approving, is a vision for the next bunch of years, right?
At least 10.
Well,
Right, at least
yeah, but I
10.
don't want to tell a family, come move here, we're going to build your beautiful home here, and by the way, now we're going to eventually have a highway behind your yard. So if we can prevent that in some regard, how do you prevent that? I don't know. How do you think that far in the future? I'm not sure, but we should at least try. So we're not putting highways behind homes
I think the
and
main,
sewer plants in
main
your backyard.
the main thoroughfares, we probably wouldn't recommend residential on those, right? I mean, but that's what we're gonna talk about with the meetings with the comp plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's all gonna be explored with this comp plan, right?
Yeah, so basically, they're gonna be, during the existing conditions task, they're gonna be assessing neighboring community land uses to determine their impacts on future development in and around Manhattan. They're gonna look at existing transportation conditions in the village and its planning area. They're gonna be analyzing and identifying all relevant local regional studies and reports. It'll be reviewed as part of this task as well. So, I mean, they're gonna be reviewing the surrounding plans, it's just, it may not be in a detail where we would have an actual full-blown transportation study, but it'll be to a point where they're gonna know that, yeah, there's gonna be warehouses here, we don't wanna put residential here, or there's gonna be a factory here, we don't wanna put residential here. I think it'll be to the point where we can be close to where we know where things can go and not go. But in the meantime, we can still do a transportation study, you know, concurrently.
I just feel like there's so many studies out there, it's like 50 studies of transportation, all this changing rapidly. You know, I think that's why our main goal, in my opinion, we should be really at the seat of the table for the regional planning that is gonna really impact us, because it's their roads and they have the right to do what they want with their roads. And that's where we need to be part of that discussion, in my opinion. I don't know that we have been in the past, maybe, but I think that's something that we can, yeah.
And additionally, they said that the project team will analyze and exist road networks and evaluate options for enhanced flow of trucks, vehicle traffic, including options for Route 52 bypass. Updated maps will include the roadway network, jurisdictional designations, functional classification, traffic volumes, truck routes, rail lines, grade crossings, public transportation, pedestrian and bicycle facilities.
Anyone
How
else?
detailed we get?
Like I said, I'm just more concerned about spending money twice. So if we feel like it's adequate and it ends up being adequate, that's great. I just would hate to wait a year for the traffic study if we can do it right now and possibly use some of that information in this.
Well, I just wanted to respond to that. As far as I understand, that we're not gonna wait. I believe that we're, with Committee of the Whole, and we are moving forward with two parallels here, the comp plan and
Ideally,
the transfer.
looking for qualifications in June, ideally,
Yeah,
so I mean,
yeah.
if, I don't know what Thursday we can meet, everybody, or Wednesday, it doesn't have to be, I'm just throwing a couple dates out there, but I think it needs more of a conversation directly on that, so we can outline what we need to, what we want to accomplish. Because it is just a visionary, comp plan is not set in stone. I mean, it is visionary to some aspect where it's every 10 years you gotta update it because of that reason. Things change, neighboring communities change their mind, do different things. It's, like you always say, fluid, So, I think this is the first step, and to your point, hopefully we can get a traffic study to go concurrent, but it's gonna be on the village streets mainly. Anyone else? No? All right. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve a resolution approving a professional services agreement between the Village of Manhattan and Household Levine Associates LLC to complete the Manhattan Comprehensive Plan update.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Beamster,
Yes.
Adamski.
Yes.
Doyle.
Yep.
Neighbors. Yes. Young.
Yes.
Dilling.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance increasing the number of Class G liquor licenses, granting a Class G liquor license to Fun Seekers LLC, and amending Title II Business Regulations, Chapter 3 Liquor Control Regulations, Section 2-3-10, number of liquor licenses issued, and automatic license reduction of the Village of Manhattan Code of Ordinances. So what that means is with the closure of Route 52 Roadhouse, the liquor license for that business automatically dissolved because of the way we updated our code recently. So there's not liquor licenses floating out there. The new owners of the property at 525 South State Street, Fun Seekers LLC, are seeking a Class G liquor license. Nick Bean is the new owner, and he is the one making this request. So the new establishment is expected to open roughly in June. It depends on what they run into with the remodel and all that. So it does require board action to increase the existing number of liquor licenses. So that's what this is for. Instead of all those numbers, I just wanted to run it by everybody. So,
Wasn't that vacated? I mean, Roadhouse 52,
yes,
and it just reassigned, is what you're saying?
it dissolved. So the liquor license that they had, the previous owners, once they went out of business and left, it just automatically goes away. And then a new individual that purchases it has to go through the whole process to get a new liquor license issued.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about this?
I'll make a motion.
I second that motion.
All right. Roll call?
Adamski.
Yes.
Doyle.
Yes.
Neighbors. Yes. Young.
Yes.
Dilling.
Why, certainly.
Beamster.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 4, Article B-8, Lawn Sprinkling Restrictions of the Village of Manhattan Code of Ordinances. This is something that has been of discussion for a little while. We updated it in the past. We have some different thoughts, I guess. I mean, I was talking to Justin, if you want to talk about it. I mean, there's some different thoughts about the timing of the water restriction, when it should be allowed and when it shouldn't. So this might need to be tabled until unless everyone can figure out a correct time that we want to go with, so we can get the signs correct and be done with once and for all.
Well, I would like to table this, or I think it'd be probably best just to table and think about this a little bit more, but right now it currently says you can water from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., then 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. Well,
Or 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
sorry, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So, I mean, if you know anything about watering lawns, you really shouldn't water that close to nightfall because you can get fungus. And if you water too late in the day, it'll burn your blades. Most people recommend doing it like from 4 in the morning to like 6 in the morning before the sun comes up. That's how my automatic sprinkler system works. It's tied to technology. It waters when it's supposed to water. And I'd be in violation of this because technically we can't water at night. And the whole idea of this, my understanding is we want to conserve water when water usage is high. I don't think it's very high from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I would propose that we make it from 7 p.m. to 11 a.m. Just one simple time. You can water from 7 p.m. at night all the way to 11 o'clock the next day. And not make it so complicated to have 2 7s to 11s, because it doesn't really make sense. We're having people water when they really shouldn't be watering. So that's my 2 cents.
Are you still looking at the even and odd, or just complete, just those time frame?
I'm okay with even odds. That's not really my level of expertise. I think we need to make sure we're half the people in
Address,
town are using.
address, yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. But I was more concerned that I would be watering in a violation time, and I just think it's silly because it's to prevent water usage all at the same time, and we wouldn't be doing that overnight.
And the goal is to not have to fill the water tower so much.
Right.
So, I can see your point.
It's not peak time.
Well, I would just add for what Justin's saying, at our house, we have the sensors, and it monitors the weather, it does everything, and, you know, I hear stories of people have really high watering, and of course, it all depends on weather or whatever, but generally, with the high-tech systems, they really, really do a pretty good job of, only turning on when needed and things like that, but it's an extra expense for the homeowner on that, but.
Does it shut off when it's raining?
Yeah, it's all part of the system, shuts off everything. Yeah, monitors humidity, rain levels, and then if it rains, your requirement, whatever they set in, like a ½ inch a week or a month, whatever it is, when you reach that, it won't turn on for days until it does a pretty good job.
You have one of those systems?
Yeah, I do.
I got a hose.
Yeah, exactly. Old school, eh?
I wait for rain.
Mine's Mother Nature.
I just, like I said, I just want to make sure it's like, because I currently do it at night when it's supposed to be done, and it's like in violation, so I want to make sure it's, like, I'll stop doing it if that's what the board wishes, but it seems silly to say yes, knowing that I'm going to purposely violate this ordinance, so I don't want to do that. And it doesn't make sense to water during the day.
So is everyone good with just doing 7 p.m. to 11 a.m. and odd, even numbered houses? So then they can get it drafted correctly, we could come back and vote on it?
7 p.m. to
I really think we should just,
11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
I'm fine with that. That's what I thought would work and make sense and make it easier on the signs, just swapping out the AM and PM sticker, hopefully, but we should probably really think about this and make sure it's right.
We gotta make sure what the signs actually say.
Right,
100%,
you know,
'cause
so I would,
I think now they say 7A to 11A and then 7P to 11P. So there are 2 different numbers on it. This needs a little more clarification before we vote on it, so.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to entertain a motion maybe to table it.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Doyle,
Yes.
Neighbors. Yes. Young,
Yes.
Dilling,
Yes.
Beamsterboer,
Yes,
Adamski.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 4, Article D, Cross-Connection Control of the Village of Manhattan Code of Ordinances, the RPZs. Staff is reviewing the ordinances for cross-connection controls to have more accurate wording. So Public Works confirmed the information with IEPA, Plumbing Code, and the Illinois compliant statutes. So the red line updates were included in the packet. So I don't know if anyone has any discussion on this or if it's good.
motion to pass?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Neighbors. Yes. Young,
Yes.
Dilling,
Yes.
Beamsterboer,
Yes,
Adamski,
Yes.
Doyle.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item is just a discussion for Cherry Hill Road. I know this Cherry Hill Road's come up in discussion several times. We allocated some funding in the fiscal year '25 budget for improvements. There was no additional funding to deal with the stormwater or other related issues that could come with us if we start improving this road from gravel to more, I forgot the word, but, yeah, what? Impervious, thank you, sir. Surface, then the water runoff would be increased. So it could have a reverse effect. We could do the road, it'd be a nice improvement, but then it could also cause a big impact on the residents that live on that road. So we just want to be clear with them. So we're going to send them letters out just to host a public meeting, to just notify them, here's a risk, maybe get Jackson Township involved because that's their jurisdiction on that side. Maybe there's a possibility they want to work with us on right-of-way, so if we have to correct drainage in the future, we're able to. So the letters are supposed to go out. The targeted date is Thursday, May 2nd. So, yeah. So we just want to be upfront with the residents before we do something, and then we have 25 individuals yelling at us because we made it worse unexpectedly, so.
So would the goal be if the residents come in and say, no, we'd want the improved infrastructure for water, would we then not do Cherry Hill Road? Is that the thought? Or would we do it regardless?
Well, yeah, they would have to either annex in, I guess, or give us some right-of-way for the road improvement. Because it's not we can't touch it. It's kind of a weird, when we annexed the property from Keating Estates, we inherited the road. It was a township road. Now it's our road, but on the direct other side is Jackson Township. So it's Manhattan Township, Jackson Township, and the Village of Manhattan. It's a little bit of a mess.
I guess I was just wondering what our position would be then on that. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page here, because I'm in favor of getting that road fixed, but I'm not in favor of adding another $1 million or $500,000 to
Yeah, they would all,
drainage.
we would, I mean,
And do they
everyone's
know
welcome to
it?
come to the open meeting and hear what they have to say, if anyone shows. That we don't know that yet.
But I guess, are we just going to take that information in and then get back to them, or are we going to say, hey,
I
if
think
you
we're
guys...
gonna address it as we get the information of what the concern is. I guess we don't know the exact concern other than the possibility of more flooding and,
So the mayor and I had talked, and John is obviously not here tonight, but if we were going to go forward in May, we would approve the contract to purchase the gravel to put on the road, and then in June, there's going to be a cooperative effort with the township to do the tar and chip. So before we approve the gravel, we wanted to have some engagement with these residents, as the mayor has said, to just say, hey, we're going to do this. Are you guys cool with this, or are you going to have major problems? I mean, I think a lot of the residents are in favor of improving the road. We've heard from some of those at these meetings for the past year or more. But this is an opportunity to engage with those folks too and say, hey, you know, we'd love to have you consider it pre-annexation, annexation, or what have you. But we just want to be upfront with people before you think you're doing a positive for them and you're actually doing a negative. That let them know at least this is what we're intending to do, but we have, I think it's been said, we have budget limitations, so we can't do it all this year. We've allocated money in the budget to try to improve the road, which is what we have jurisdiction over, but beyond that is to be determined. And it's not that we could do further improvements in cooperation with, as the mayor mentioned, with Jackson Township, which is on the other side, but that's to be determined. But
it's just like Baker Road. We went to the residents on Baker Road and notified them this is where the scope of work is going to be. Here's where, you know, we're going to start moving dirt over here, so they don't just walk out one afternoon and see bulldozers out in front of their house, not knowing what the actual, what's even being done. So I think that's the goal, just to reach out to them first. Maybe there's something we don't know about that we could fix easily, or we can't, and we can't do the road. I mean, we don't want to make it worse on someone or some residents.
Mayor, if you don't mind, Ron, real quick, I just, you know, my point was, I'm fine with that, obviously,
Yeah.
have that conversation, I think that's the right thing to do.
And we come
I
back to
just-
the board and decide.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we're not saying, well, hey, we'll look into this, we may put pros, no, we're going to do the road or not, if it causes issues, we really should know that probably in advance before we put a road.
That's what we're, yeah.
So, I mean.
We'll have that information, hopefully, if it works out, if anyone shows on if it's May 2nd, then
But okay,
yeah, we
I just
can-
want you, I just don't want it to be an ongoing conversation where like, well, we'll talk about if you annex in, we may pay for it. Like, we don't have the money if you annex in regardless. So,
Yeah,
to me, it's
I
not
get it.
really, I don't want to give them wishful thinking or high hopes here. Just, it is either, hey, here, we're going to get you a road, or we're not going to give you a road. And this is maybe the issue, and are you okay with that issue? But,
Mayor, I was just wondering, since we're having this conversation real quick, maybe, I know John's not here, so it's, but Nick or maybe Mark or somebody else knows. I mean, when they go out there and do the chip and tar, if approved, that whole situation, and all working with our partners out there, I mean, wouldn't they run the scooper in, like, when I grew up in Palos Park, I mean, we had tar and stone, that's it, and they scooped every so many years, and dug out to make the trenches? I'm probably not using the right terms, whatever.
The ditches, yeah. The
The
problem is that
ditches,
that's-
whatever, are they
that's-
gonna,
we don't
nothing
have
at
the-
all? They're not planning? I
We don't
thought
have the right to do that, and we're not doing any drainage grading. We're kind of just
Nothing,
gonna
just-
build up the
yeah,
road so that
okay.
it's not, right now, I believe the soil's like 6 inches higher on certain
Yeah,
spots of the road. So the
yeah.
water just washes all the gravel away and turns into muddy. I believe, I mean, John's not here, I don't, but that's what I was under the impression. It's kind of just build it up with gravel or grindings and then tar and chip it.
Yeah.
To make it- yeah.
aware of what's working.
I think the main thing is just to get the board information of what is gonna be impacted by them, just so that then we can come back, before we vote on doing the road, we'll have that information. So then, we can talk about it accordingly. Yes. So, any other discussion on that? No? All right, so next up, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the authorization to appoint Aaron McDonough to the Manhattan Police Pension Fund for a 2-year term beginning May 1st, 2024, and ending May 1st, 2026. Carleen Kendall vacated the spot, so we're appointing Aaron McDonough, if everyone would agree.
Motion.
Second.
Oh, I don't know if that was Tom or Dave was first, but. Roll call?
Young,
Yes.
Dilling,
Yes.
Beamster,
Yes.
Adamski,
Yes.
Doyle,
Yes?
Neighbors. Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All I have is, I just wanted to thank our police department. There's a lot of truck enforcement that they're working on. That seems to be a big issue in the village, but they do much more than that. I mean, they're with the schools, they're doing community events, investigations that we don't know what they're working on because they can't disclose it. Just recently, a couple weeks ago, Officer Baez, the new truck enforcement officer, wrote a overweight ticket for $19,000 was the cost of the ticket. So they're really working hard on the trucks, and just to bring that up and thank them, because I don't want them to think that if they're not working on trucks, they're not doing anything. I'm sure everyone feels the same way, but I just wanted to thank them for the dedication to Manhattan and doing all that, so, and that's all I got, so. Lucinda?
I'm very happy about the comprehensive plan moving forward. Can't wait to find out more information about how we're going to plan and stay on track for Manhattan residents. Also, I would just wanted to say how I'm sure our thoughts and our prayers are with Glenn and his family at this time, and how hard it is to lose your mother at any age. That's it.
Thank you. Justin?
No general comments, other than one conversation I was reading through the packet, and Chief, this is NEMA, I guess this is kind of towards you guys, over the Irish Fest hours. I know we bill for our hourly police officers, but maybe in the future, can we consider billing for our salary officers as well? Because it really isn't a requirement of their job. It's an extra thing we're doing because the festival is coming to town, and maybe figure out how to recapture some of their money and their time.
Okay.
So, thanks. That's it.
I'm the squeaky wheel, of course. This question is for Carrie. The lights.
Which ones?
Which one do you think I'm talking about?
52?
The series of light, 52 lights, yeah.
Yes.
Who,
So there's waiting on they submitted a permit to IDOT, ComEd. They're ready to go as soon as IDOT approves it. Just like the last update, it's pretty much the same.
okay, that's good, thank you,
Yeah, no problem.
thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Just my condolences to Glenn and his family. It's very sad. Thank you to everyone for all the hard work they do. There's been a lot of subjects, a lot of debate. Everyone works hard here, and I just want to thank the staff and the board, and it's very nice to see. Lively debate is good for democracy, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Ron?
I have nothing, Mayor, thank you. Of course, Glenn, we're all thinking about Glenn, of course, but I have nothing.
Thank you. Tom?
Me too. Glenn, He's lost his family, thoughts and prayers are with him. Hope he heals well. But his loss. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley?
I just want to mention to the board that the Touch a Truck is coming up. It's scheduled for Saturday, May 11th, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We pretty much have everybody back that we had last year, and we have Joey's Food Trucks, the Creamery, and then we have the face painter and the balloon artist coming again this year. And I just want to thank the board. Everybody got their statement of economic interest done. Nick, you still have to do yours. Did you do yours? Okay, all right. So thank you for everybody for getting that done. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jeff, did you have none? Nick?
Just a couple of updates with Glenn being gone. Tomorrow, we start more kind of the detailed work of the transition for the BSNA, that's the ERP or the finance system. So we have meetings all day tomorrow with various people on staff. This is kind of the data collection where they kind of review our processes and hopefully, use that to guide the implementation, which is going to happen the rest of the summer. So that's exciting. We're also working on kicking off a refresh and update of the website. And we're also looking, Shelley and I met with a vendor for a very low cost to kind of boost our technology related to the board agendas. So all that you'll see more about in the coming weeks and months, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. We've got a number of other projects, but I'll save that for the next meeting, so thank you.
Thanks. Mark?
I have my monthly report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Can't help myself. Quick question. And we've had these discussions before. I've spoken probably to John, Mark, about the situation. What is our, I hate to use the word enforcement, but what is our mechanism that we're currently using regarding our signs that are out, that are either in bad shape? I mean, I went through it at our place, took us a while to get them, but we got old signs out, say Cats, for example. We have a sign that's, I don't know if it's Manhattan Plumbing or something, but half of it's gone. There's a couple bulbs there. And as we're all working together for the future and improvements and things like that, since I've lived here, I'm not saying this a negative way, I'm just saying, since I've lived here, the one sign that's, I don't even know whose sign it is, in between Kraus and I think there's a plumber building over there, but that sign's been the same condition for 5 years. So I guess, just to be quick, where are we headed with some of these sign type of issues?
Well, I mean, we can address that when we hire the code enforcement officer
Yeah.
that we approved through the budget the other day. So I'll make a note of that as a priority, along with, the visible properties along 52 and
Is that
other
still
areas.
zone business?
Pardon?
Is that still zone business, that plumbing sign?
It's
building,
still
like-
commercial, yeah.
Commercial.
Yeah.
Mark, can you add the Dunkin' Donuts directional sign as well? That's been
Yes.
hanging on.
Oh,
This
someone hit it, yeah.
Like for 3 months.
Good. Tom? Oh, Tom already went. So, yeah, Mark's good. So, Carrie, I know John's not here.
Yeah, I've got my monthly report in the packet. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Chief?
Here, monthly reports in the packet, and I just want to comment that traffic stops are slightly down, and calls for reports of criminal activity is slightly up. I think it's just due to the warm weather, getting here a little bit sooner, nothing out of the ordinary, but a little more activity for us, and Apollo's been called out a few more times too, and, so we're staying busy, but just doing a little bit different things.
Thanks. It's also Dispatcher Appreciation Week. So
Yes.
we went there and the chief dropped off some food for LCC and the dispatchers there. They have a pretty tough job. So I was talking to them and I asked if any of the board members or myself could go there and get a little sample of what they do for an hour or 2 or 3, and they said absolutely. So we could schedule a time to go in pairs of 2s if we want and experience, what they deal with. It's a very stressful job and very difficult job, so we're grateful that there's people that do that. So if anyone's interested, let us know, or Nick know, or Chief know. Terry?
I'll give you a rundown, excuse me, of
some of our Irish Fest numbers from Thursday to Sunday. For the parade, including ourselves, we had 16 different towns that came to assist us. That consisted of 46 squad cars, command bus, 2 ATVs, 57 officers. For the total, I'm not gonna get into some of the others, but for the total, we ended up, using 68 squads, 11 light towers, 2 ATVs, 1 command bus, 3 message boards, with the 91 officers working a total of 510 free man hours. So, kept us kind of busy. We had a couple minor things that we had to deal with. Other than that, I gotta commend the auxiliary, one of the best groups they've ever sent to us. Worked that Friday, Saturday night. So, it keep us busy from Thursday to Sunday. So, other than that, that's all I got.
Thanks for all the help. No one else? So I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.